Hey guys, welcome to or welcome back to my channel. I am not dealing with the cold very well this year. I don't really deal well with the cold any year, but this year it's starting earlier for some reason. October is freezing cold. So if you see my hot water bottle make an appearance, creep up slightly, please excuse me. I do apologize. I need it constantly on my person. Otherwise I might turn a little bit grey. You'll see the life bleed from my face. But I am here to start this reading vlog. So I think I've said before that I have 3 books to finish before I go to Korea because we fly out in about a week. Jesus. Oh my God, I have so much to do. I have so much to do and so much to get ready. I'm not thinking about that. I'm not thinking about that. I'm thinking about books. So the 3 books that I wanted to get to before I fly out to Korea in an undisclosed amount of time, because I can't think about it, are The Woman in White, The October Country, and Fast. I have actually finished one of these books, which is good because that only means that I have 2 left and I feel like I'm running out of time. It's just escaping me. So I have finished The Woman in White and I loved this book. Now, if you've watched a couple of my videos, that will come as no surprise to you because I tend to love a lot of books. I am a book lover, as they say. But yeah, I love this book. I would say if you don't like verbose writing, don't pick this one up. It's got that Victorian style writing. It was written in the 1800s and it's very wordy. Some would say needlessly wordy. I am not some, but I know that some say it. It didn't need to be 600 pages. It didn't. I'm happy it was because I really enjoyed this story, but it didn't need to be. Definitely not. So if you don't kind of like that verbose kind of very flowery style of writing, maybe give this one a skip. Maybe just skip it. Or read some Spark Notes. Spark Notes are there to help people. But yeah, I love this. There's something about this writing style though that for me personally really kind of gets inside me. I have no idea what it is. I've found it with other books written kind of like in the 19th century. They really kind of get to my emotional core. I was constantly on edge reading this book. Constantly. And it's not even like it's that scary. It's a gothic mystery, but it's not scary. I mean, there are parts of it that are creepy, definitely, but I was just constantly on edge, especially in the first half. And then in the latter half, when they're trying to solve this mystery, or I suppose when they're trying to get evidence for one of the crimes that's been committed, I was just so impatient. I was like, this needs to speed up. These men need to see kind of the repercussions of their actions. But I find it strange. I do find it strange how books written in this style they just tend to really get to me. And I don't know why. My favourite character is still Miss Halcombe. I am slightly miffed though. I'm kind of annoyed that she wasn't the hero. She wasn't the one who kind of saved them. Mr. Hartwright was. And I did really enjoy his character, especially at the beginning. And I love how he came back and the romance there. I love the romance. But I really wanted Miss Halcombe to be kind of like the saviour. I wanted her to be our hero. And I'm kind of upset that she wasn't. But she was so brave. She was such a brave character. She was such a strong female character. One thing I did find interesting in this book is how it touches upon gender. I don't think it's obvious. It's not in your face. It's not kind of like one of the greatest themes of this book. But there were definitely places where, I don't know, Miss Halcombe is described more as displaying kind of stereotypically male characteristics. Mr. Farley is quite obviously displaying kind of more feminine trait, the most negative of what stereotypically is a feminine trait. There are a couple of places where the characters actually talk about gender. One of my favorite quotes, actually, I'll share that with you now. One of my favorite quotes touches upon gender and the relationship between the 2 different genders. So the quote is, "Women can resist a man's love, a man's fame, a man's personal appearance, and a man's money, but they cannot resist a man's tongue when he knows how to talk to them." Isn't that interesting? Isn't that such an interesting thing to say? I think it touches upon kind of like the relationship between men and women, the things that they each bring to the relationship. I suppose kind of the slyness, the quick-wittedness of men, the need to perform, the need to impress, the naivety of women as well, their willingness to kind of believe in what someone's saying, their kind of, I suppose also their vanity, because there are parts of this book where it talks about how women being complimented, they can't really ignore that. So I think it touches upon their vanity as well, kind of like the stereotypical traits that people talk a lot about for both genders, and how they interact, how they kind of come together to create the relationship between the genders, the ways in which each one can manipulate the other, I think, how to get into the good graces. Yeah, I just thought that was really interesting. I don't know about you. Apart from that, I'm just really happy that the two villains in this got their comeuppance. I'm not happy that Mr. Farley didn't really. I mean, he kind of did. Spoiler, he died. I hate Mr. Farley. He was so annoying. I liked the conversation it held about greed because the main villains in this book are just, I feel like they are just kind of caricatures of that sin. And that's the reason why half the things in this book happen. That's the reason why all of the things in this book happen, because they are just money hungry. They just want riches. They just need it. That's why they commit their crimes. And I thought that was really well done, actually. I thought the whole mystery and the whole crime that they commit was very convoluted. I feel like it was very well done. I think it was very well thought out. Yeah, I just really wish Miss Halcombe had been the one to kind of collect all of the evidence and be the one to kind of like hit the gavel on them, you know? I do. It's like I said, I did like Mr. Hartwright. But I don't know. I just love Miss Halcombe. When she creeped out of her room to listen in on the Count and Sir Percival, one, suspenseful as hell, and two, I was just so happy. I was just so happy for her. She was so strong. She was so brave. She was such a well-written female character, I think. And the fact that she did everything she could to protect her sister and those like really strong, close familial ties, I loved because I kind of feel the same way about my sister, and I think she feels the same way about. I hope she feels the same way about me. That'd be awkward, wouldn't it? If it was a one-way thing. I would go to the ends of the earth to protect my family, and I just loved that Miss Halcombe did the same thing. So that was A Woman in White. I think I'm giving this one 5 stars, because I don't know if I've read any mysteries that were written around, but I've read Sherlock. Do you think that Sherlock was kind of based on Mr. Hartwright? Because he was a bit of a sleuth. He was a bit conniving there. And he was very competent at unraveling the mystery, at getting the evidence. He left no stone unturned. So do you reckon Sir Arthur Conan Doyle read this and was like, ooh, that's an interesting character. Let me write one like that? Probably not, but I think it's interesting to think about. Do you not? I do. Yeah, really like this book. I gave it 5 stars. That's one of 3 that I need to read finished. So I'm happy with that. And I think it's the longest one. It is the longest one. So I'm happy that the bulk is gone. I think now I'm going to obviously focus on Faust. So I think I might, but Faust, I feel like because I'm annotating it, I have to read it slowly and I have to read only like a certain amount of pages a day. So otherwise I'm going to get too overwhelmed, and I'm already overwhelmed. I don't know if you can tell, but I am. Maybe if I can read like 50 to 70 pages a day, I'll get that done. So I think what I'm going to do today is I'm going to start reading some of the stories in the October Country, see how much of this I can get rid today. Oh, this one has illustrations in it as well. Huh. There's 3 books this month that's been illustrated. This one, The Halloween Tree, and Empire of the Damned. Must be a very art-heavy month for me. I'm going to see if I can make some headway in this. I'm going to see if I can make a little dent in this. And then I'll come back to you when I have a few more things to say about anything that I've read. Just pray for me. Just please pray for me that I can get these finished before I fly off to Korea. Because I have so much to do. I have so much to do before I go. And I have these things to do as well. So I'll see you again when I have an update on either one of these. So here's me, just getting ready. I'm just about to go out and watch my friend, very, very close friend, perform some poetry. I'm really, really proud of her. She's recently started getting into some spoken word poetry, and I'm just about to go watch her perform. But look what came. My Evernote box for October. So I thought I'd open it on camera for you all, because this is a bookish channel, and why not? You Weren't Meant to Be Human by Andrew Joseph White. Festering masses of worms and flies have taken root in dark corners across Appalachia. In exchanging for unwavering loyalty and fresh corpses, these hives offer a few struggling humans salvation. A fresh start is an offer that none refuse. Crane is grateful. Among his hive's followers, Crane has found a chance to transition to never speak again. He even met Levi, a handsome ex-marine and brutal killer who treats him like a real man, mostly. But when Levi gets Crane pregnant and the hive demands the child's birth, no matter the cost, Crane's desperation to make it stop will drive the community that saved him into a devastating spiral that can only end in blood. Let's have a look at the book. Because that's what we're all here for, the book. What's this? Scan the QR code to listen to the first chapter of audiobook for free. Oh, that's sweet. And the book, The Piece de Resistance. Ooh. It's quite shiny. Oh, I like this. This is really awkward because I've never held this up to a camera like this before, so we'll see if I can do it. So these are the end papers. Oh, I think I like these ones more. Now, the naked hardcover. Ooh. That's pretty. Do you know what this reminds me of? Junji Ito. I actually have some Junji Ito. It's the only manga that I own, apart from a couple of manga that I bought from Japan. They're in Japanese, but the only manga in English that I own is Junji Ito. I haven't read it yet though. But doesn't that remind you of it? Doesn't that remind you of the art? Shiny. It's glossy. For anyone who ever put their face too close to the fire or boiling water or snapping dogs. Ooh. It looks like it's done in pregnancy terms, in terms of pregnancy. Oh, that'll be interesting. Oh, I'm excited to pick this one up. Hopefully it doesn't disappoint. Yeah, I will be picking it up for my next one comes. So I think it's every 3 months, isn't it? So the next one will be in February? No, January. The next one will be in January, I think. I'll pick this one up before then, give you my thoughts on it. One thing I do like about Evernight is that the covers, the cover art, the cover design, the sprayed edges, they're all really beautiful and they're all quite cohesive. And quite often they do reflect the book, I think. I think they've got some amazing cover artists on their team over there. I thought I would unbox that with you all, new book, before I go out on my way. It's a new dawn, it's a new day. I'm back because you can't get rid of me, unfortunately. And excuse me because I'm eating mint. So the poetry recital I went to yesterday was lovely. It wasn't a poetry recital so much as it was kind of like the university's kind of creative, collaborative performance, I suppose. So there were people from kind of the creative writing degree. There were a lot of performing arts students. There were some people showing off their music, which I really loved. There was this one that was absolutely amazing. It was this PhD, I believe. Well, they didn't actually say, but I believe he was a music student, a PhD music student who showed us like the first part of his orchestral composition. That was called the Harvest Dance. And it was beautiful, but in a very strange way. And I think it tied in really nicely with the October Country, actually. So if you can imagine kind of what a harvest dance would sound like, that's what it sounded like. It was really interesting because as a writer, I was picturing the scenes that song could soundtrack. And it was just such a wonderful, just kind of a wonderful evening of creativity. And I loved it. My friend did absolutely amazing. She was absolutely phenomenal with her performance poetry. It was so raw and it was so emotional. And all of the things that she's been through and all of the things that she's discovered about herself, how she's finally found happiness, she just unleashed it all. She just unleashed it all to the audience. And it was so powerful. And I'm so happy for her. I'm so happy for her. I wooed. I wasn't the only one who wooed. She was so, so good. She was talking about her experience discovering that she's transgender and just the power behind it. I very nearly cried. I'm so proud of her. I'm so proud I got to see her perform those. And some of the performing arts students as well, they were amazing. Some of them are amazing singers. I think it was a lovely night. I think it was a lovely night of just celebrating the arts, celebrating human creativity. And if they do something like that again, I'm definitely going to go. One more update I have for you before I get into my thoughts on the October Country, because yes, I finished it. Look at me go. Some of you may not like this, and I'm sorry because it is me gaining another book. But my sister got it for me, and I can't refuse a gift from my sister. And you've already seen it. I love her so much. She got me the Divine Comedy, the edition that we saw in Waterstones in London that she bought that I gave to her that I didn't buy because there was only one copy and I gave it to her. And I was very sad. So she went online, she ordered me a copy of the Divine Comedy and just, oh, I'm just so excited. Oh, I'm so excited. Oh my goodness. Do you not think that this is one of the most beautiful books you've ever seen in your entire life? Because I do. But I think that about a lot of books, to be fair. I'm very easily pleased. Lots of things please my eye. So, new book. New, wonderful, wonderful, beautiful edition of a book. And I've got it displayed facing outwards because it's just so pretty. It's so pretty. Anyway, so apart from those kind of little updates, I don't really have much to talk about. I am going for my first ever massage today, so we're going to see how that goes because my sister's been to one before and she said that on the day of, it feels amazing. The day after, you feel kind of like you've been hit by a truck. So let's just say I'm not looking forward to that. But what I'm hoping is I'm the exception to the rule. And what I'm hoping is I'll just feel great. But anyway, on to the main point of this update. I have finished The October Country by Ray Bradbury. I really like this book. Oh my God, Tia really likes a book. Hold your horses. That's rare, isn't it? No, I really, really, really like this book. I really liked all of the stories, but there are some that were just so good. In all of them are odd. All of them are very weird, but some of them were just amazing in how they made me think. So there was a story called The Skeleton about a man who becomes obsessed with his skeleton. I feel like he doesn't realize that he has a skeleton inside of him when he starts to kind of actually think about his skeleton and how odd it is that he has one just in his body at all times. He just becomes obsessed with that idea to the point where he can't eat, which makes the cycle worse because obviously when you don't eat and you lose weight, your skeleton shows more. That made him uncomfortable. And it was just so weird and all kind of came together at the end with him, his fears kind of coming to life. I mean, it's called The October Country. So a lot of them are kind of based on kind of like horror ideas. So yeah, that one was weird. My favorites, I had two favorites. So my favorites were, I have to look at the content again, Small Assassin and The Cistern. The Small Assassin, I could talk to you about for ages. It was, how many pages was it? 152 to 177, 25. It was 25 pages, but the thoughts that it made me have, there was so much you can discuss about that story. Depending on what mood you're in when you read it, you're going to pick up on loads of different themes. You could pick up on a theme that someone else hasn't thought about. You could pick up on a theme if you read it that I haven't thought about. But there was so much in it. In 25 words, there was so much to discuss in it, so much to critically think about and analyze. It's about a woman who nearly dies when she's giving birth, and she's afraid of her baby. She hates it. So obviously you can read it from the viewpoint of kind of postpartum depression. You can read it from the viewpoint of shared delusion, because the more she fears it, the more her husband fears it. The more her husband fears it, kind of the more the doctor starts to believe them. You can read it thinking about nature versus nurture as well. Like, is this baby truly born evil? Is this baby evil because that's what his mother thinks about him? You can read it from the point of view of like an evolutionary point of view. There's a very interesting bit where the father is explaining to the doctor the reason that this baby hates its mother, or the reason that a baby could have to hate its mother, is because it blames its mother for taking away from every comfort and everything familiar that it knows. It spends 9 months in the womb, and when it comes out, it's being born into a world that wants things from it, that desires things from it, that needs things from it, that pushes it to do things, that pushes it to be things. So that was a very interesting thing to think about. You've got obviously the idea of the Antichrist. I know that that's quite a big thing, like in a lot of media, in a lot of kind of stories in general, just the idea of a baby born evil. And there is something slightly supernatural about this baby, it seems, because it's not a baby. It doesn't behave like a baby. It has knowledge, it has understanding of the world around it, sentience to a degree that a baby shouldn't have, really. Yeah, there were other themes that I thought of while I was reading it that I can't even remember right now because there was so much going on in my brain when I read that story. And it's 25 words. It's 25 words. And nearly every single page, I was like, oh, that's interesting, or that's brought up something I haven't thought about. And I could sit with someone for probably a good 3 hours and just discuss that story in and of itself and our opinions on it and what we think it means and what we think it's trying to say, if we agree with the things that it's trying to say, if we agree with the characters, their behaviors, their reactions to this baby. Is the mum right in being scared of this baby if it is the Antichrist? Is the mum wrong in hating her baby if it's just because she blames it for nearly dying when she was giving birth? Like, there's so much to say. And my other favorite was the Sistan, which is about a woman, but it's about these two sisters, and it's basically just a conversation between these two sisters, but also not really. It's basically kind of a monologue of this one character, and she's seeing the Sistan, and she's just creating this love story in her own head about two bodies in the Sistan. That one, I feel like that one is the most beautifully written. I will read you one of my favorite quotes, but honestly, that entire story, the Sistan, is my favorite quote. Just the whole story is my favorite quote. I'll see if I can. I'm not sure. She's new. She's just dead now, but she is dead. Beautifully, beautifully dead. It takes death to make a woman really beautiful, and it takes death by drowning to make her most beautiful of all. Then all the stiffness is taken out of her, and her hair hangs up on the water like a drift of smoke. Oh, I just think this one was beautifully written, but it also might be because I love water imagery. I love the imagery of water. My favorite place to be is by a body of water, at the beach, by a lake. I love rivers. We don't have one here, by ponds. I just love water, and I love it when people use water as an allegory for something else, or just to aid them in describing something else or making a point on something else. So I just love water, but I loved that story. I think it was so beautifully written, and it's haunting how it ends as well. I just love this collection. All of them are unique, I think. All of the stories are very unique. There were stories in here where death existed as an entity, but there was another story where death was a person. You inherit the role of death, you inherit that job at a farm when you're given a scythe to kind of to kind of get rid of dead wheat or like ripe wheat, and you then take on the role of death, and that's passed down from stranger to stranger. And yeah, just the stories in here are so unique. They're so unique, and they're so strange. They're so strange, and I just loved all of them. And I think even though all of them are like really short in and of themselves, there's so much to discuss within it in terms of theme. If you like to read critically, I would really recommend this collection. Although it's not as rich as some other things, like maybe Jane Eyre, maybe, Crime and Punishment. It's not as philosophically rich as those, I don't think, but it is rich in its own right in terms of the writing. And there are so many themes that you can discuss about this short story collection, each in every single one of the stories. And I just really loved this book. And I'm so glad I got to it this month, because reading the October Country in any other month than October it's just wrong. Okay, it would just be wrong. So that's the October Country by Ray Bradbury. Read, loved. And the final book that I need to get to before I fly to Korea is Faust. And again, this one's taken me longer because I'm annotating it. I read it for like an hour the other day, and I only read 15 pages. 15 pages in an hour, guys. 15 pages. Tell me why. Tell me why. To be fair, I am having to look up things kind of as I go along. Not an awful lot. There are some references in here that are kind of going straight over my head. I am worried that some of it won't make sense until I reach the end, which I suppose is what a good book does. But that also means that on my next read of it, if I reread it, which I probably will, my annotations will take that into consideration. And I'll be able to pick up on things that I've missed this time round. I'm really enjoying it, actually. Like, really, really enjoying it. Like I said, I think I've said before, I'm loving the conversations on good versus evil. I'm loving the kind of the search for knowledge. I'm loving the corruption of characters, of human souls. I'm not quite sure what Faust wants. I'm only 90 pages in, which is actually very sad. I'm very disappointed by that and myself, but I'm only 90 pages in. But I started this book thinking Faust wanted knowledge, thinking he wanted to gain kind of like a supernatural, godlike knowledge, right? What that knowledge was I wasn't sure. I wasn't sure what that would entail. And obviously he makes a deal with a demon, the devil, to kind of get to that because he's just completely done with life as is, I suppose. But now I'm thinking what he wants is love. Like he has like this lust for love almost. It's come on very quickly. So I'm not sure if the knowledge that he wanted to gain is different to love, to him gaining kind of love. If he wanted that all along, although that's a very kind of human emotion, that's a very kind of human want, a human desire, a human need. And before he would talk more in terms of reaching a kind of almost a heavenly knowledge, a knowledge that surpasses humanity. But love is a very human thing. So I'm a bit confused as to what he actually wants. I'm sure someone smarter than me will be able to read this book and get to 90 pages in and know exactly what it is that he's searching for, why he actually made this deal. But at the minute, I do think I'm slightly confused on what it is that he's actually trying to get from this deal, that he's actually trying to find in life that will make him happy, make him feel complete. And I suppose I'm going to have to finish the book to find that out. Maybe if I can understand it enough. So I think for the rest of this vlog, this is my focus, but it's my only focus because I finished the other two books that I wanted to get to. And I'm not picking up another one. I'm not picking up another one before we fly because I'm not doing that to myself. So, Faust, I'm going to focus on. And I guess I will see you when I have another update on it, which probably won't be tomorrow if the massage goes poorly. I might update you when I'm midway through what I have left, or I might update you when I come to the end of it. I haven't quite decided that yet. We'll see where this leads me. We'll see if I can figure out what's actually going on. Like, what is his desire? Probably not, but I think it's fun to try. I'll come back to you when I have some more thoughts on Faust. And we'll go from there. So I am back to finish off this reading vlog. I'm not going to lie to you guys, I have angled you slightly so that you can't see the mess of my room I'm currently packing. And I don't want you guys to see that. I don't. I want to be transparent, but not that transparent, you know? There are some things I need to keep to myself. It is a couple of days since the last update. One, because I had to finish my book, and two, because that massage, it took everything I had out of me. My sister lied to me, by the way. She said, "Oh, you'll ache the day after." No, I ached the minute after it finished. We were walking home. She was completely fine. She was like, "Oh, I feel so light. I feel so buoyant." So why did I feel like I was being dragged to hell? My neck ached, my shoulders ached. I was a bit like this. I was leaning forward because I just ached everywhere. And she was completely fine. And I think that's a little bit unfair. Anyway, in terms of my reading, I have finished Faust. I have finished Faust. It took me 2 months, but it is now complete. Like I said, I do want to be transparent with you, so I'm going to be transparent with you. At the end of Faust, we do have extra scenes and I believe the original manuscript, Faust in its original form, at least some of the original transcript of Faust. I haven't read those yet because I have run out of time. I fly in 2 days, so let's hope I can get this filmed and edited before then, but who knows. But I have completed the actual play. I'm still going to count it. I'll read the rest when I get home from holiday, but I probably won't update you on that because it's just kind of extra miscellaneous things. So, Faust. I did really enjoy this. I think I've said it to you before. I know it took me ages to get through, but that's because I'm annotating it. And when I'm annotating a book, I'm less likely to pick it up because it takes me ages. But I'm getting better at it. I am. I am. And I really enjoy annotating. I really enjoy just like how it makes the book look. And when I go back and I can see all of my thoughts and stuff and see what I was completely wrong about, and maybe perhaps some things that I still agree with. I don't know. But I did really enjoy this book. I loved a lot of the themes in it. So I tabbed originally, I tabbed for prose. I always tab for prose if I'm tabbing. I tabbed for the search for meaning, for good versus evil. I tabbed for character. I added in a tab for kind of like humanity versus what?
anything because there was a lot. There were a lot of different things that humanity versus Sid. For love, which I should have started earlier, but I didn't, I started off a tab for kind of sexual pleasure because that is a running theme in this book. But that tab color ended up becoming miscellaneous, taking over all of the other tab colors that I ran out of. So it's a bit of a mess at the end. It is, I'm sorry to say. But yeah, I think my favorite theme in this was probably the search for meaning. I feel like Goethe is making some quite critical points about education and about knowledge. I won't lie to you, there were parts in the middle. The first half I was fine with. In the middle, I felt like the plot, or not necessarily the plot, because I understood what was happening, but the commentary was running away from me a little bit. I was a bit confused. I couldn't seem to kind of draw upon some of the commentary. My analyzing was getting a bit confused. So the middle I did struggle a little bit with. The end, there was quite a bit that I had to say at the end. I'm not sure all of it is positive. I think it mainly obviously touches upon kind of transcendence, how that comes after death, but also kind of not retribution, but salvation, how a human soul can seek and can attain salvation. I don't agree necessarily that Faust should have been redeemed. I understand it in the context because obviously it's quite a biblical religious notion, isn't it? To be forgiven for your sins, to be able to obviously transcend human existence, human knowledge, and in the afterlife be able to harmonize with the divine, which is what Faust wanted. I believe that was Faust's goal. It was his desire. That's what he wanted. So I'm happy for him that he reached that, but I don't necessarily agree that he should have. And it might be because I myself am not a religious person, but some of the things he did, some of the sins he committed, some of the ways that he thought, I don't believe how the play ended, those should have been forgiven. At the end, he does learn. He does learn to, I suppose, forego his own kind of bodily pleasures, his own selfish desires. He does try and build his own kingdom and make it just and make it right. And he's always striving for progress, which I think is the message, that maybe striving for that progress, that maybe kind of having that intellectual curiosity, that need to continue. Because with Mephisto, it was all about kind of lapsing into idle pleasures. So as long as you're not idle, you can reach salvation, you can reach the divine, right? But I don't believe that all of the things that he did at the end, because we didn't really see an awful lot of it, to be honest, because he wasn't a tyrant, but early on in his reign he was still quite completely kind of consumed by his own desires. He wanted everything. He wanted kind of like the whole world, it seemed. He wasn't content with what he already had. He was striving for more, which again, I suppose is the argument that when you're striving for more, when you want that progress, when you're no longer idle, then you can harmonize with the divine. But at the same time, you've also got to think about the sin of greed. Like, when is enough enough? He was never satisfied. He wanted more all the time, and that is a sin. So I think those are two conflicting ideas. I mean, I could be reading them wrong, but to me, from what I read from it, those ideas, I don't see how he was forgiven when he was still kind of indulging in sin. It might have come from a better place than some of his sins earlier on in the book, but it's still sin. I don't know if I agree with him being forgiven, to be honest. I don't know if I agree that he should have gotten what he wanted. There are parts in here where Goethe kind of criticizes education. Like I said, I love the whole educational institutions are cyclical. A professor teaches a student, and then that student takes over that role, becomes the professor. There were also nods to kind of like, I'm not sure, the people who come before being forgotten, and then obviously the younger ones taking their place, thinking they know better, and perpetuating kind of the same kind of cycle, the same mistakes as their forebearers. There's also kind of like a heavy nod to kind of just the conceit of humans, that arrogance of humans, just kind of how it's in our nature to be idle, how it's in our nature to give in to our desires for pleasure. I love the kind of emphasis on nature as healing as well, nature as the divine, nature as being godlike. almost, symbolizing rebirth. It's symbolizing hope. My favorite part was Walpurgis Night. I loved that scene. I loved that scene. I don't know, it kind of reminds me a bit of Halloween. So actually, this is quite a good one to get to around this time of year. It comes after, in the first part with Gretchen, it comes after that. So just reading that and seeing the complete contrast with kind of what Gretchen represented, with what her ideals were and what she was experiencing as well. I just loved it. And I loved the descriptions of this night. I loved the kind of sin of it, the dark magic in there. I loved also the kind of leveling dynamics. Now, I don't know if that makes sense, right? But I'll share my favorite quote with you quickly because it might make slightly more sense if I do that. Okay, so my favorite quote was, "Up there is where I'd rather be. The crowd streams upward to the summit where the evil one is sitting in a fiery glow. What mysteries would be revealed up there?" Now, that's my favorite quote because the whole thing is Faust wants to reach the divine. He wants like a godlike knowledge, a godlike control, I suppose. I'm not sure. But the idea that the evil one is sitting atop a summit up there on the mountain, reading this scene, reading this excerpt, I just thought it was so interesting how kind of the evil one, capitalized, the grandest evil in this place is the closest thing to heaven. Faust is accompanied by a demon who he's made a deal with, who is trying to take his soul. But what he wants is to reach the divine. It's transcendence, it's divine transcendence. So those two things coming together, I thought was absolutely fascinating, to be honest. I just loved that. I'm not sure if that's what it was supposed to say. I'm not sure if that's what I was supposed to get from that quote, but that's what I got from that quote. And that's why I really, really like that quote. But I just think there's so much to think about in this book. I think there's so much that it speaks about. I think there's so much that you can draw from it. There's a lot of Greek culture, ancient Greek culture, Greek myth is kind of revered as well. I think Goethe must have loved ancient Greece, and their ideals are all about kind of like beauty. And Mephisto, the demon, is only concerned with ugliness. So there was like a lovely little contrast between those two things when Mephisto was extremely uncomfortable when he was in their world. I don't know. I just really, really loved this book. I did feel too dumb for it at times. I'm not going to lie to you. And there are a couple of things that were written in here that I did have to look up because they went completely over my head. I didn't understand the references. I'm not too familiar with the Bible either. So some of the biblical references I did have to look up and be like, what is this? What is this saying? I have no idea what this is saying. But yeah, I did really enjoy this book. I'll be interested to see what thoughts I have on the reread because I do feel like some of the things that happened in the first half of the tragedy, to be able to fully understand them, you kind of need to have read the second half. And I think also a couple of things that confused me, a few of the because I was confused quite a bit. I'm not going to lie to you. I'm not going to sit here and purport to be way more intelligent than I am. I was confused quite a bit throughout this book, but I think some of it would be easier to understand if you were actually watching the play. There were points where they were in like a masquerade, and I didn't know. Now, this is just me. This is probably just going to show you how dumb I am, but I didn't know that some of the characters were actually kind of Faust and Mephisto. They're not called Faust. They're not called Mephisto. They're called their character names, right? God of wealth. And nearer to the end of that scene, I kind of picked up on it. I was like, oh, okay, this must be Faust because he's representing wealth and that's what the emperor wants. But at the beginning and kind of in the middle, I was like, who are these people? Where is Faust gone? This book is called Faust. Where is the main character? So I think actually watching the play would have helped with that because I would have been able to see that the actor was the same person. And there were other things as well. Helen of Troy. Yes, Helen of Troy and Faust had a baby. Their child, when he kind of, I suppose, kind of like mimics Icarus, which I thought was quite fun, when he flies, that would have been more impactful, more interesting to see as a play rather than reading it because some of the actual directions in here weren't very helpful in kind of figuring out kind of the levels and the placement of the characters and what was actually happening and also what they looked like because they did take on costumes quite often and like I said they weren't called by their names. So yeah, I think actually watching it as a play you might be able to pick up on more than you can reading it, purely because I think some of it you need kind of like that visual context for. But I'm just really happy I read this. I'm really glad I got to it. Was I right to be intimidated by it? No, I wasn't. And I think that just kind of shows you that you shouldn't be intimidated by books in general. But I was also intimidated by it because I thought that I wouldn't understand it all. And I was right about that. I didn't understand it all. But I understood it in a way that I understood it. That's what I love about reading. Everyone is going to get different things from the same book. And the way that you read something is not going to be the same way that someone else reads something. So I could look up like an entire essay, a critical essay of this book, and they might pick up things that I didn't catch. They might have completely different ideas about what some things mean. And that doesn't mean that I'm wrong, and that doesn't mean that I'm too dumb to understand what it's supposed to mean. It just means I have a different opinion on it. I have a different view on it. So I think it's silly to be intimidated by books that you think that you're slightly uncomfortable reading, because what the book means to you is right. It doesn't matter how much you can get from it, what type of thing you can get from it. I don't think any analysis of a book is dumb. That's what literature is here for. But yeah, I did really, really like this book. I'm not going to rate it because it's a play. And like I said, I do think I would have benefited from seeing it be performed, seeing it as it was supposed to be seen. But yeah, I did really, really enjoy this, and I'm so happy I got to it. I'm so proud of myself for getting to it as well. So that's Faust finished, and I haven't put them away yet, but I did also finish The Woman in White and The October Country in this vlog. I'm sorry that it's kind of been a little bit everywhere. I did originally want to add like in more B-roll, more kind of like vloggy kind of style things, just to break up me talking about books so much, because I talk about books. I've been filming for 22 minutes and that's about one book. But so I do want to kind of add those little bits in to just kind of break it up. So I'm not just shoving loads of books down your throat all the time, constantly, with no break, no breathing room. But I don't have the time to do that. I didn't have the time to kind of film any nice B-roll, take you on any walks or anything. Because if I'm not filming, I'm reading. If I'm not reading, I'm working. If I'm not working, I'm getting prepared for my holiday. So hopefully I'll be able to do that in the future vlogs. And hopefully this one turns out okay. I have pre-recorded a video for you all, a little shelf audit for when I'm away, so that there is at least a video going up that week. I have semi-edited that one. I don't think it's very good. So please bear with me for that video. But hopefully after that, you'll be seeing Korea and seeing Japan. Thanks for sticking with me through this. You've been my emotional support throughout the entirety of Faust, because I started it in September, but now we can say that we've done it. We've done it. Yay. Good for me. Thank you for keeping me accountable. You'll have to let me know what you're reading, please. You'll have to let me know if you have any books that you've been intimidated by and if you've read them. I think that'll be a little fun discussion for us all. And yeah, I'll see you guys in my next one. Bye for now.